Hey guys, it's the next day. We continue on. This will probably be part 4 of this Nissan Frontier. This is a V6 obviously makeover. This is part of my 100,000 mile inspection or maintenance or whatever you want to call it. What we haven't even done yet, even though we have already taken off the upper intake manifold, and we have put new heater lines and inlet and outlet in, removed the plastic parts and put some metal in there. We have installed new idler pulley and a tensioner for the serpentine belt. We have taken out the old thermostat housing and thermostat, even though it looks brand new. We need to still work on spacing the mounting points for all the engine covers. This hard line down here is actually connected to this bracket that holds the rest up, and this hard line goes into a, I want to say this is a vacuum line for something. I haven't figured out what it is. This also completely needs to come up because it goes over the intake here where the throttle body is. So this entire thing needs to come up. So instead of making individual spacers for those 4 points, I'm gonna make 2 and just bring the bracket up 20 millimeters. The only thing that we might have to replace is this formed piece of hose. The other thing that we need to bring up is this bracket over here. I don't know, can you guys see that? That one here. That holds the upper intake manifold, or supports it here on the side. I want to see if I can maybe easily remove this, and then we're just going to weld a couple tabs on here and then drill a couple new holes so that we absolutely have no problem. Oh yeah, and we still need to change the spark plugs. So someone remind me to change the spark plugs before I put this all back together. It's a one piece, huh? So we actually have to find a longer bolt, get this washer off, and make this spacer piece too. Well, that shouldn't be a problem, I don't think. There were 2 studs instead of bolts there and there. I found longer studs that I'm gonna be cutting to length what I need. And we're gonna keep 2 studs that makes it easier to line up things and slide them on. So now I have 2 20 millimeter spacers for this contraption here in the front. All right, hose off. So now it didn't even clean the outside surface of this aluminum. Can you believe this? So this is how high this is gonna be. Oop, don't drop it. Don't drop it. Yeah, like that. So let's not drop things. Let's find 2 longer bolts, and that should be enough thread sticking out. And it's the same thread pitch, drop of Loctite. Too many things in my hand. I'm gonna drop stuff. And it's also a flange bolt. I like flange bolts. This is 8.8 grade metric, 6 millimeter. Perfect. All right, let's take that one out. I thought we're gonna be reusing some hardware here, but I guess we have to use the new ones. I have a hardware store here in town. It's pretty well sorted on even metric. Oh, this is a different head. I don't like that. Let's see if I can find, oh, don't drop it. Find another one real quick. Everything takes about 3 times as long as you think. And then, of course, I have to drop the spacer down here. Okay. There you go. Long enough. Perfect. Great looking. Fresh bolts. Tight, and the Loctite is going to secure it. And you know what? We're just going to stick this on without shortening it, because what if I ever want to go back to without the spacer? What if the spacer causes problems? There you go. Little drop of something. Yeah, this has enough give and flex to it that we really don't need to do anything with it. Okay, so that's the first spacing done. So here's the whole thing now. This is gonna raise up horizontally, no, vertically, and this is where it sits. So this is not a, I guess this corner here we can use as a straight edge, because this is about a 90 degree to the mounting surface. So 20 millimeters higher there and there, easy peasy, I think. So here it is. 2 extensions, backside welded, front side welded and then ground off. Give it a lick of black paint, but I think I'm gonna drill first, of course. I should probably go and have a cup of coffee. I'm not on my A game here. So first of all, I realized the welds are actually in the way on the backside. And second of all, I noticed that the tabs that I cut, I wanted to originally install them this way or weld them on this way, but I made it this way, so now I have to cut them off. Not really in the way, but it kind of looks funky. Already drilled the holes. The holes fit, but the welds are in the way. So, hardware store visit. Unfortunately, they didn't have a flange bolt. That would be kind of like the original piece that goes over there, but just a hex head with a 7mm washer and a kind of steel spacer. We're pretty good replicating this. And then this bolt is 20mm longer. I have one more aluminum spacer that we're gonna put under this one here and bolt it down, and that's it. So that goes right over here. Again, a drop of Loctite. Alright, there you go. Loctite will hold it. So here's the modified bracket that goes here on this side. So I'm going to put the bracket back in place, but leave the bolts loose so that we have a little bit more wiggle room. So when we put the upper intake manifold back on, we have as much play and everything as we can to get this all lined up properly, because I'm not under the illusion that it's all gonna be just fine. So, I mentioned that there used to be 2 studs, and I want to keep it that way. Here is the original. Here are the ones that I'm going to be using. They're exactly 20mm longer. I had to cut them to length, and now I'm going to put the short one away so we're not accidentally dropping anything. The second one up here. Again, we need 2 10mm wrenches. Put 2 nuts on here. So with the 2 wrenches, we just locking them against each other. And then I will also put a little bit of some never seize, anti-seize on the end of this, because we're putting a steel bolt into a aluminum case, or aluminum intake I should say. This is the lower intake, and I don't want to permanently lock them in place or anything, so we're not looking to put any Loctite on there. Okay, just gotta get the masking tape out of the way, and we're gonna blow some air in there. Ooh, well. Oh my goodness. So that's why you put masking tape on there, so you close up all the openings, so you can really blow all the... All right, so I think I'll take a quick little break, get some food in myself, so we have everything changed, and the studs too. I would say we're ready to reinstall everything. I mean, of course, I want to do a little bit more cleaning. So our lunch break's over. We're gonna do the spark plugs quick. Oh my goodness. Oh, yay. Yeah, we're gonna definitely put some dielectric grease on those. NGK, iridium, LFR5 AIX11. So, let's see what you guys can see. Here's a spark plug, 100,000 miles. Absolutely no problem. So I'm gonna do one at a time, just so that I don't accidentally drop any kind of debris in one of the open holes. So one at a time. Didn't cost me a dime. So I have a piece of the silicone tube that holds onto the porcelain section of the spark plug, and then you can at least, oh, you know what, Dumbo, I was going to put some never sneeze on there. Some people say don't, some people say do. You should do it dry. I do it just ever so slightly, so that the threads are not completely dry. All right, we're gonna do 20 Newton meters from now on out, especially because I'm putting anti-seize on the threads. They say that you should reduce the torque value when you do that, or if you do that. All right, and now let me grab some dielectric grease. So dielectric grease has nothing to do with really the contact in there. It just helps the rubber that slides over the porcelain to seal a little better, not to stick. We're gonna do a little bit up here too, where it goes into the tube. So just a light smear on the rubber gasket here. That makes it easier to get it out if we ever have to pull it out again. You don't want to mix up your coils either. I don't recommend it. Oh, here we go. All right, I don't think we permanently deformed anything. It's just plastic. There is this little insert in there. That is a couple springs. So now we just need to put it back together, and that's gonna be it. Got to make sure this is somewhat in the center. Has to line up. I figure we can do it upside down like this to make sure that this this lead inside is actually on the contact. Okay, there you go. That should be fine. And I can see the other end of the spring right in there, so no big deal. So now let's not let that happen again. I'm gonna put some grease on both sides, up above and down below. I like to use those rag in a box, cloth-like, but they are still, if you rub a little bit, they fall apart. So let me get some old t-shirts. Standard issue German military. Believe it or not, they shrink in my closet. I don't know how that happens. Hiya! Okay, old gasket that needs to come out because we have a new one, or new ones. It's like a multi-piece. I'm kind of tempted again to install the new ones with a slight smear of Hulomar, because it's so nice and tacky that it keeps everything in place while you are like moving this around. It's, you know, it fills up the gaps and the little imperfections. So it is a sealant at the same time, but it really nicely works with paper gaskets or other gaskets. So here are the new ones, here are the old ones. Rest in peace over there. New Hulomar blue. Alright, and each gasket has a little slot here, and there is a little nose on it. So we're just going to put a slight smear around this thing on the side that goes into the groove. That's all we need to do. And it's going to help keep the gasket in there. And you gotta push it in all the way. Before I forget to mention this, I have another set here that will go into the intake spacer. Has the same groove. It uses the same gasket, exactly the same as the OEM. I'll just do that off camera here real quick. Alright, so on the spacer that will go in here, it absolutely makes even more sense to use Hulomar because the gasket groove is a little looser than on the intake. The intake is a, you know, injection molded plastic or whatever it is, but it has a couple tight spots that actually hold onto onto the gasket pretty well. The groove in this intake spacer is a little bit looser. I mean, it fits really well, but it doesn't have anything specifically holding onto it, and Hulumar will just make sure nothing falls out. So we have that coated. Now we're going to clean up that surface. Another old t-shirt, better than the paper type style stuff. All right, let's not drop any. Let's do. I think we have blown off dust here enough. So let's get this off here. Oh, it sticks pretty well, actually. I thought maybe because of some residue, oil residue, it wouldn't stick at all. Oh, yeah. So now we're going to slap the spacer on there. Here's the dog hair. So here's the spacer already with a Felpro gasket installed. Here's another dog hair. Come on now. I tell you, you have dogs, you have dog hair everywhere. Okay, good enough. So that's that. Just a couple fingerprints here. The little extensions sticking out. So now we just let me put it on here. That way? No, that way. So they put the branding, the label on the corner that nobody's ever going to see. It's good. Uh-oh. Uh-huh. Gaskets are still there. Yeah. Looks good. All right. So I think the spacer coating, that's like anodized, so I think I can wipe that up with acetone or a brake cleaner. All right, there you go. Are you guys ready? I'm nervous. I hope it all fits. All right. Let's try to get this wiring harness and this other bracket here out of the way, because it's really in the way. Okay, I'm on the first stud. All right, now I have the upper intake manifold also on those two studs. I hope they're long enough. Yeah, I think so. Gaskets look like they're still in place. All right, now I'm going to put the first two nuts on there. Intake manifold removal, install 6-cylinder 2B14. All right, there is a certain pattern that you're supposed to use. Yeah. All right, and the torque value is torque value. Intake manifold to head bolts now. Intake plenum nuts. Bolts and nuts, see illustration 9.7. 96 inch pounds, 11 Newton meters. That's nothing. Okay, so now I'm going to put it to 9 to 5 and do one last run here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. And whew, stressful. Good. Hey, good morning, guys. So it's the next day. Yesterday I had to kind of stop working and go and take care of some other business. Now we just need to really put the finishing touches on it. We have the spacer and the upper manifold installed. We have to now tighten up a bunch of things. Before I left yesterday, I tried out my extended bracket here, and the holes all line up surprisingly. We have the serpentine belt on, but we haven't test run it, of course, obviously. We have the new thermostat on there with the hoses back installed. And the reason why I'm always reiterating everything and like it sounds like I'm repeating myself is just my own way of double checking that I don't forget something. So then we need to put all the connectors back in place. We can stick on all those hoses that are still flapping in the breeze here, kind of like that. Yeah, I just discovered that this screw removal pair of pliers that I have been sitting around, made in Japan, so this is actually pretty good quality stuff. That this thing works also for hose clamps pretty well. So we have those two on. Here is this vacuum line. I still don't quite know exactly what it does, what it is for. Well, we're just gonna put it where it belongs. Stick it all the way on. And with this modification where we put the spacers under here and lifted this whole thing up, it actually works out really well with this hose going over the intake here. So we still have a couple. Oh, I just poked my glove protection thing here off of my air filter housing. Let's keep this on there. So now let's tighten up a few things and work our way around, trying to find all the connectors and all the things that still need to be installed. So the little extensions that I put on and the holes that I drilled surprisingly line up more or less perfectly. So we really don't need to worry about it. This is 12 millimeter. Let's see if I maybe have a ratcheting wrench. Make life a little easier. So here it goes. I intentionally left the upper and the lower bolts loose, or the lower bolts loose, so I had enough wiggle space to get all those holes to line up. And it happened, it worked. The paint probably also dried up pretty good now. Okay, here's bolt one. Click, click. Remember, it goes into plastic. There is a threaded metal insert inside this plastic housing, and you are putting a bolt in it. Don't over tighten it. It will break loose in the plastic, and then you have a whole new problem. Can you guys see those two bolts there? If I would have seen this earlier, yesterday for example, I would have probably done that yesterday. So now, really long extension. I hope we have enough wiggle there. So now I just have a long extension and a proper swivel. That might give us enough wiggle room. Yeah, here we go. Click. And now the next one over there might be a little more difficult. Oh, that's tight. All right. So that was easier than I thought. I wish I would have seen this yesterday. So that part is good. So now you can lean on this part here without risking breaking something. All right. Here's another little hose that plugs into. Oh, it comes out of the. It comes out of the valve cover gasket and goes into the intake, upper intake manifold. So the main harness here is still, okay, this is clipped back in. I mean, since we really only lifted 20 millimeters, there shouldn't be a big problem with, you know, stuff still fitting. I'm also pretty happy that I only have 6 bolts left, and I already know where they all go. The other ones here are all left over from the intake spacer. The 2 short ones, they go into this bracket that mounts to the top of the manifold here, where the intake plenum. If they would put a knurling on long sockets, so you can use them kind of as a handle to just screw in by hand, that would be a nice feature. So here, this plastic sliding onto this metal hung here, but the plastic piece is only wrapped in there with loom tape. So I wonder, because I do have proper loom tape, if we can unwrap that, move it over, because the harness will reach it, and secure it. Let's do that. So what I do sometimes is I just unroll a bunch of, here I need to take my gloves off. Gloves and tape and tight spots. So I just take some tape, roll it onto something smaller, so you can actually get into places with this big, this is Tesa. Tesa is a German brand name. They make all kinds of different tapes. They make office tape for packaging and whatnot, but they also make this type of loom tape, wiring harness, protecting tape, whatever. It's a fabric, really hard to rip. You can't tear it. You have to cut it. Well, you can probably if you're strong enough. So I put that on a smaller, some circular, you know, like a plastic cap, a piece of PVC pipe, so you can actually wrap it around things without this massive roll getting in the way. Huh? Oh, we have a kink in here. Okay. So I'm just going over this plastic clip thing. So if this plastic ever breaks for some reason, it will be held in place by the tape. So now I'm going, oh, we're already at the end of the piece that I had cut off. And the adhesive on this tape is also kind of heat activated, more or less. So once the engine bay gets warm, this tape will stick even better. So I'm going to make myself another little roll here and go over it one more time. Okay, we might cut it short now. This is enough wrapping here. All right. Do you guys like that? Does that look acceptable? Yeah. All right, and then we're gonna clip it back in place if we can. There you go. The harness is back in its location. So here's a little chunk hanging there that we're gonna. All right, so we're clipped in, all that is back in there, and now we still have to put that one hose that's back there that you can't even see. I can't even see it, but I know it's there. Don't forget to plug in stuff here. This one, that needs to go right underneath here. All right, hose is back on. Now we just have to get the hose clamp back on. It's right back in there. Very good. Very good. Love it. Oh, here's a hose clamp not put back in place. Right down there. And this is a coolant hose, so that we would have probably noticed immediately. You definitely have to get the whole selection of pliers on to make stuff like this here happen. I'm gonna buy a set of those spring clamp pliers that they sell, that the pros use. But my dad's old water pump pliers here, they're doing all right, you know. All right, go on there. And you can always use a little bit of some lubrication. So I've started using these pump spray bottles for WD-40, but if you put them in the sun, they build up some internal pressure and then they leak. They just sit there and drip and drip and drip. All right, there you go. All right, this on, this on, this on. Anything else? The connector down here, this connector. There's a connector that's on, there's one. Hose. We didn't do anything to any connectors back here. Is there anything dangling in the breeze that we took off? Nope. And the heater hoses, I'll look at one more time. There are hose clamps on everything. Yeah, that looks good. All clamped down. And here on the other end, also good. All this here. We didn't take anything off here. There. All right, let's put this connection back in here. I'm gonna blow out this piece here. So there it goes. Now we can take our rubber gloves off. Throttle body cleanup. You know, I do have a gasket for it, but I think we're just gonna leave it alone. They will have a little bit of some dirt in it. If it ever becomes a problem, I will take it off. Here's another breather hose that goes from the valve cover into the intake here, which is the cause of all this brown schmoo that we saw in the intake runners there, because you know it brings along a little bit of some oily mess. So I wonder how this is all gonna fit here now, because you know we lifted this. So, but I think there's enough flex. So we need a 8mm. So the thing you didn't see was this flex line here. That will definitely adjust its position after a few heat cycles. There's enough wobble flex in here. There's 2 bolts going in here. So the 4 leftovers are 2 black ones and 2 silver ones. They are the same length, but the silver ones are the ones that are going to go in here. You're not gonna see them anymore once the last cover is on. Oh, that's not an 8. That's a 10. And our little spacer height adjustment that we did is lining up perfectly. So this point we didn't have to change because it came up with a intake. This one we lifted. I'm going to put the cover on here real quick, briefly, just to see if it fits. We're going to take it off one more time when we do the first run in the filling of the coolant. So here's the engine cover. These are those 2 rubber. Let's see if we can maybe zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so those 2 rubber points that go right onto those bolts. Let's see if that lines up. So that all works. So now we're going to take it back off because I really want to see if there's any coolant leaks, oil leaks, anything leaks. Oh, this is not coming off. Hello. Oh, there you go. All tight, all snug, all plugged. This is good. Oh yeah, here's the breather line. We still have to put the hose clamp on. Let's do that. This opens pretty nice, pretty far. good. All right. So I don't know exactly how much coolant came out of this. I have 3 gallons sitting in the garage. So this is how I store some of my supplies. So I have a bucket where I keep funnels for oil changes in. I have one bucket that has a funnel system for bleeding or filling coolant. And then I have another bucket that contains all my brake fluid changing equipment. And the nice thing is, first of all, it contains the oil and the spill and whatnot, but it also keeps the dust off of things. So we're gonna use one of those. It's a spill-proof funnel kit by EP Auto. I have already put the little drain plug back in the radiator at the bottom. And the one with the pressure release valve is always on the reservoir here. All right, so now we have to find the one that fits. There is an adapter kit, comes in all kinds of different colors, different metal connectors, little extensions and elbows and whatnot. And you pick the color where the gasket fits right in there, and you find the little cap looking metal thing that actually fits on your radiator. So now this is sealed off against the radiator, and then the funnel fits right in there and it shouldn't leak. And then there's also a plunger that goes into the funnel, stops more coolant from flowing. So initially we're going to leave that out. We're going to dump in some coolant. So like I said, I have 3 gallons. I hope that's going to be enough. We're using this one here, Peak Original Equipment, Asian Vehicles. This color is blue, 50/50, so this is already pre-mixed. All right, let's see if I forgot a hose somewhere. So start pouring. We also put all right, and then look under your vehicle. Nothing so far. That's good. So then eventually it will stay in the funnel and not go down any further. And then start doing this bubbling thing. Let me grab an Allen key. What size might this be here? Did they give me an Allen key with this kit? I don't remember. So still fluid in here to this point roughly. I'm gonna try to open this little bleeder nipple here on the, I can hear, oh, there's fluid coming. So you just open it until fluid comes out of it. Evacuate some of the air that's in the line. Now you got to make sure that this is tight, because you don't want to suddenly develop a coolant leak on your heater hose. I'm going to close this off here because I don't want the reservoir to fill any higher. Now I'm going to connect the battery. Let's take some of the stuff off of here so it doesn't fall down. We're going to connect the battery. 10 millimeter. Alright, so this should be on there. We have coolant in the system, at least some. So far nothing is leaking at the bottom. We didn't do anything to the engine oil. Here's my cap for the radiator I have in my pocket. Let's do an engine oil check real quick, just to make sure. I just did an oil change like 5 days ago, so I don't think we need to. This looks good. Yep. almost new. 5W30, 5.4 quarts it takes. All right. So far so good. It started up. So this reservoir is closed. That bleeder or breather is closed. Sounds good. No issues. No weird noises. No bubbles are coming up. And you do that until there are no bubbles coming anymore. I have the heater turned on all the way hot. And now we just need to let it breathe and bleed. It's going to take a while. We want to bring it up to temperature. So the new thermostat opens at 170 degrees Fahrenheit. So that to that point we want to bring it. And looking at my serpentine belt and all the idler pulleys, it runs flawless. Perfectly lined up, no problems. So the whole spacing deal that we had to do and measure the back spacing worked out perfectly. No squeaking either, that's a good sign. And it started up. Yeah, it's bubbling. The moment the thermostat opens, you will get a flow. So it's going in the bottom, out the top. So you can put your hand on the upper radiator hose. When that starts getting warm, then you have thermal siphoning going on. I can feel bubbles going through it right now. You can also squeeze those hoses a little bit. Just be careful you don't get your hand into the serpentine valve or the fan. This heater hose breather, has a rubber gasket that can be replaced. So if you ever get a leak out of that thing, the fill mark here on the reservoir, there's on the overflow reservoir, there's minimum and maximum, and we're just slightly below maximum, so that's good too. So here's a can that we just took most of the coolant out of. Take the plunger, stick it in the bottom of the funnel, tight, so that it excuse me, so it's sealed. All right, let's make a mess. Let's make a mess. Oh, there you go. Relatively mess-free. You can't do that while the engine is running, I guess, because it's pushing coolant into the radiator. All right, so now we just remove this. Hello. There you go. Put that back in my bucket and put the regular cap back on. These could also be replaced occasionally because those gaskets, they shrink and wear out. So that should conclude everything. First thing, we did the struts. We did the breather on the rear differential. We did a intake spacer. Right there, see it? And because I didn't want to install it just like most people do, where that cover is not held on properly. We did all those spacers. We spaced up this front bracket so everything rose with the intake spacer. And then we also did this metal bracket. You can see the original holes not in use. We welded on a piece of flat bar, drilled a couple new holes, put some paint on it. So this should hold up to vibrations and whatnot. Everything else, you know, just that little heater core breather, Z1 Motorsports. This is aluminum. This is a regular Doorman aftermarket replacement. So this original fitting here on the heater core outlet was plastic. Now we have aluminum or some sort of aluminum or alloy. That worked out pretty well. What else do we do? I mean, besides the spacer with all the gaskets and all that stuff. And yeah, we did the thermostat right down there. Oh yeah, and the serpentine belt. I keep forgetting about the serpentine belt. But that thing is perfect. Quiet, no squeaking, no squealing. The bearings started making a little bit of noise, especially in winter driving when it's cold at night. And I think now my 2017 Nissan Frontier is good for another 100,000 miles. How about we do a quick little test drive? I need to go to the gas station anyways. Let's do that. Alrighty guys, so we successfully installed an intake spacer and a thermostat and a serpentine belt and hood struts and a differential breather and some heater hoses and some metal fittings where there was plastic before. And the only issue my car has is we're almost out of gas, so we're going to a gas station. But oh yeah, I also have my two dogs with me. We're gonna go and let them run somewhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for sticking it out with me, bearing with my long-winded ramblings and for my slow working. But you know, I'm always figuring things out as I go and make it work, and success this time. And I like the fact that everything looks stock from above. So with all the little spacers we made and all the relocation of things, it is where it was before, just 20 millimeters higher. And the intake manifold is properly supported. Alrighty guys, so that's it.